Hey everybody, my name's Matthew Cooper. I'm an instructor here at PDS Code Guild, and we're going to build a single page application to-do list today. And we're going to use Django, Bootstrap, and Vue, and also Axios for doing Ajax. Okay, so, and I'm starting from scratch, so I'm hoping I can squish it all in now 52 minutes. We'll see. We'll see. And let me share my screen. Yeah, if anybody has like short questions, feel free to interject as well. So I started us off just with, I just started a template that has all the references to CDNs that we need. I think I have Django already installed on this laptop. I just switched laptops. Gosh, I hope so. Pip install Django. Okay, well, I have to give it a second. So yeah, just a quick overview of what we're going to do here. There's kind of a major dichotomy in web applications. There's single page applications and multi-page applications. Multi-page applications, right? Each request response is separate. You get a whole new page every time you click on a link. So oftentimes when you click on most websites links, you get that little page flash. Single page application, there's only one page, and when you click on things, it does Ajax behind the scenes and goes retrieve some new information from the database. So yeah, this is a to-do list, and we're gonna just make it a single page application. So there's only gonna be one template. Anyway, okay, let's start a project. Django-admin start project. We'll call this to-do-SPA. Oh no, I guess to-do SPA with no hyphen we'll have to do. Okay, that creates the project, cd into it. Python manage.py. I'm going to start out with a migrate. That'll create the database. Python manage.py create super user to create the admin at admin.admin. 1, 2, 3 explanation point. Super secret password that I can't tell you. And I think that's good. Let's create an app. We'll call it to-do spa app. We'll call it app. No, to-do spa app. Sorry, I'm indecisive today. And okay, so that created our app and our, I think we're gonna start off with our models, honestly, because that kind of defines what data we need to retrieve from the user and what data we need to retrieve from the database and show the user. So it kind of determines the structure of the rest of the application. So I'm just gonna have a very simple to-do list. Class to-do item, models.model. And just a couple fields. We'll have text, models.char fields, max length 200. And we'll do a date created, models.char fields, sorry, models.datetime fields, as well as a date completed, which will be a nullable datetime field. So when we create a to-do item, we'll set the text and we'll set the date created. Then the date completed will be null initially, and then when we complete a to-do item, we'll set the date completed to a value. Maybe just a nice little helper method is completed. Return, these has to take self, return self.date completed is not none. Yeah, if it's completed, the completed date's not none. Okay, and then your usual def under str to get that nice string representation, self.text. Good enough. Okay, so created our model. Let's run migrations. That's not good. Anyone remember what happened? What went wrong? Classic. That's right. We didn't add our app to the list of installed apps. Do spa app. Okay, trailing comma for style. Make migrations. It's going to create our to-do item. Python manage.py migrate. We'll create our database. There's our db.sqlite 3. And next, we're going to just enter in some dummy data. Python manage.py run server. Make sure it's working. Localhost 8000. Okay, so Django application's working. Let's log into the admin panel, and we forgot to register our model with the admin panel. From .models import to-do item admin.site.register to-do item. Okay, that should be good. To-do items, add to-do item, walk the dog. I wish I cleared my browser cache before then. Okay. Save, add to-do item, wash the car. Today and now. And water those plants. And we'll mark this one as completed. Okay. So we got some data. We got some dummy data in there. I think next we'll actually, let's render a template. Let's render a template. It's always good to, make sure that the request response cycle works. So I'm going to open another terminal, and how do you render a template again? We have to create a view, def inside our app, def index request. How's it work again? Oh, return render request comma to spa app / index.html. And then we don't really need any context there because we're not using template rendering. So inside here, we have to create another folder called templates. And then inside templates, we have to create another folder called to-do spa app. And inside that is where we put our template, our index.html. Okay. And right now, this is just going to have a big old H1 hello world. Okay. And so we have our template. We have our view that renders the templates. So now we just need to create a route to get from, for a request to get to our view. So we're going to create a urls.py inside our app. App underscore name is equal to do spa app. Really regret that name. Is it from .import views, from Django.urls import path, and then URL patterns, path, blank string, views.index, name is equal to index. Okay, so this is creating a route from our app.urls.py to our view. Next, we have to create a route from our project urls.py to our apps urls.py. So to go to my project urls.py, we don't need this long comment. And then we have to import include and path blank string include to-do spa app URLs. Okay. So I'm going to turn off my nightlight on. It's off. Okay. All right. Okay. So I've got my link from my project URLs.py to my apps URLs.py. And then I have the link between my apps URLs.py and my view. And then my view is going to render the template. And the template looks like this, and it says hello world. So basically, we should be able to go to localhost 8000 /nothing/nothing and see hello world in the browser. Django magic. Okay, so we got hello world. So we got our template rendered. We got the request response cycle down. That's great. So again, if we were using template rendering in a traditional kind of web application way, we would get the data out of the database and pass it into the render function as part of the data context. And then we would use template rendering inside our template to actually build up the HTML. And then our browser would just receive the rendered HTML. But we're not going to do that because we're fancy. We want to be Web 3.0. And we're gonna have a separate view that actually responds with JSON. And then the template is going to do an AJAX call using Axios to that second view to receive the to-do list. So first and foremost, let's set up a view. We'll call it def to-dos. We're going to get our model from .models import to-do item. We're going to get all our to-do items equals to-do item.objects.all. And we're going to turn them into JSON basically. So there's a special response called the JSON response from Django.http import JSON response. Okay. And JSON response, if you just give it a dictionary, it'll turn into JSON and respond to the browser. So we're going to have to turn our to-do items, which is a query set, into a big old dictionary. And then we'll pass that to JSON response, and then it'll turn that into JSON. Okay. So let's just say data equals dictionary, something like that. And we'll say, we'll have inside data, we'll have to-do underscore items, and just start that off as a blank list. And then we'll iterate over our to-do items for to-do item in to-do items, data of to-do items. So we're just accessing this list. Append a new dictionary, and the dictionary is going to have, what did I call it in the model? Text created and date completed. So text is to do item dot text. Date created is to do item dot date created. And date completed is to do item dot date completed. So I believe this will actually crash if we try to do return JSON response data. And I believe that it'll crash because date create is a datetime object, and we're trying to turn it directly into JSON, and that's kind of no bueno. So we'll have to overcome that hurdle. But first, let's set up the connection to this view. So I have to go modify my apps URLs.py, and I have to add path slash to-dos. Wait, to-dos slash. Right. Use.todos name is equal to to-dos. Okay, so that should be enough. That should be enough. So if we go to localhost 8000 / to-dos, it'll take us to this view, and then the view hopefully will respond with JSON. Just ignore. Oh, okay. Oh, no. Okay. Visual Studio Code is so helpful. / to-dos. Okay, that did work. By some previously unforeseen magic, this did actually work, which is interesting. So we can look at the parallels, right? So walk the dog, wash the car, water those plants. Walk the dog, wash the car, water those plants. So we basically took our data and turned it into a dictionary and passed that dictionary into JSON response, and then the JSON response actually responded with JSON. And if you want to check it out in the developer console network tab, you can see that this actually did response headers, content type, application / JSON. Yeah, I have a little I have a browser extension that makes the JSON look pretty. But if you do this in your browser, it'll look like a bunch of garbled text. But anywho, this is, I guess, acceptable. I believe that is an ISO standard. We'll have to parse it from a string and into a JavaScript datetime on the front end, which is going to be a little bit tricky, but that'll probably be the hardest part of this entire presentation, honestly. We'll see how it goes. But so anyway, we need to send a request from the home page. So on here, we're going to have a bit of JavaScript, and that JavaScript is going to send an HTTP request to localhost 8000 / to-dos, and localhost 8000 / to-dos is going to respond with JSON, and then the front end is going to basically build up a bunch of HTML using that data. So let's get that down. We're going to go to our template, Bootstrap view, Axios. Where do I start? I guess we'll start with the view app. So I'm going to put a script at the bottom of my body. Let app is equal to new view, and that takes a big old object. What we got? L is the HTML element that the app belongs to. Let's say div ID equals app. I don't know. L equals hash app. Data is the data portion, which is an object, and we're going to have to-dos and just make a blank list. And then methods, I don't know, we'll get there eventually. Just your app method. And then finally, there's a lifecycle hook created. So we're actually going to do our Axios call from the lifecycle hook. So what is it? Axios, open paren, open curlies. And then it's URL. So here I said we'd avoid template rendering, but we're actually going to just do a little bit of template rendering. Curly % URL. God help me. I'm going to put this in double quotes so it doesn't mess up the coloration. Curly % URL to-do spa app : to-dos. So let's go check our urls.py. To-do spa app to-dos. Yeah, okay. To-do spa app to-dos. Okay. So we'll do that reverse URL lookup. So URL is that, method is get, and that's all we need to do. Then function response. Let's be fancy. Response greater than equals to. Use that arrow notation. And let's do a console.log response.data. Okay, so we should be able to go to our home page. It'll do the Axios call to this view, and then it'll take the response and we'll just log the data from the response. So basically, we should see this in our developer console. Okay, so refresh the page. Open the developer console, check the console. We got to-do items, array 3, to-do items, 3 elements. Each element has date completed, date created, and text. Cool. And it looks like it sorted the keys for us in each of those objects. Okay. Okay, so now is honestly the hardest part of this entire presentation is those date times. I'm going to be a little bit cavalier and see if I can just pass that string directly into the JavaScript date constructor, and maybe it can just figure out what it is, but I'm not super hopeful. So we'll say let data is equal to response.data. Here, I'm going to leave this console.log right there for you. Always important to test. Let data equals response.data, and we'll say for let I equals 0, I is less than data.length. Wait, data is this object, and data has to-do items. So it's the, here, we'll just say response.data.to-do items. Good enough. So for let I equals 0, I is less than data.length plus I, and then we'll say we should refresh to-dos. This dot to-dos is equal to a blank list. So again, this dot to-dos pertains to the view apps data. We don't need this terminal really. Well, okay, so iterating over the data that we get in response from our Ajax call, and then this dot to-dos dot push object text is going to be this dot to-dos dot text, this dot to-dos of I dot text. Sorry, the data of I dot text. You want to do, if we were lazy, which is totally a thing, we could do this dot to-dos is equal to response dot data dot to-do items. Again, this dot to-dos is that list of to-do objects, and this is the data we're getting in response from the Ajax call. So we could just assign it directly, but the problem is that there's these date completed and date created, and that's a string, and we want it to be a JavaScript date object. So I don't want to just copy the data directly over, because then I'd have strings where I actually want date objects. So we're just going to loop over it and just create new objects for each of them. So date created, which is actually going to be annoying because we have to check if it's null for date completed. Let's see if this works. New date, data of I, dot date created. I do not know. Console.log this dot to-dos. Let's see if that works. I'm feeling lucky today. So we've got 3 objects. Date created, yeah, it did. It's nice when things work magically. But that is a standardized date format as far as I understand. I forget which ISO it is. What is it? Standard date time format? Oh, I feel like I need to tell you all the ISO. ISO 8601 is what I believe it is. Yeah, ISO 8601 in UTC in particular. So luckily, we have someone agreed upon a standard for datetime objects, standard way of formatting them. And it seems like Python and JavaScript both understand that. If we didn't have that, we'd have to use datetime.strftime on JavaScript, and then I don't know, things would get really ugly on the front end. But we got lucky, so just take it as it is. Working with date times is always a little bit dangerous. The date completed is a little bit technical. We'll have to check if it's null So if data of I, say let date completed equals null, if data of I, good job, use the Python. If data of I dot date completed is not equal to null, then we'll say date completed is equal to new date data of I dot date completed. So if it's null, we'll leave it null, and if it's not null, we'll parse it into a date object. Completed is equal to new date. No, date completed equals date completed, and it's a colon. Okay. So let's run this once again and make sure that we got all the data that we want to have. Not that one. Looks good. Okay. And they're all data objects. We can access the methods and all that stuff and make them look pretty. Okay, let's start designing. I forget how to do everything. Isn't there, you know, we could just start with an H1. I'll just put it inside the app to do SPA. We'll do a little, I'm just gonna create a style up here and we'll do hash app. There's a more bootstrappy way to do it. I like to do max width. Can we just put it inside a container? Can we just put it in container? Can I say class equals container? Okay, I'm sorry. I want to do things the bootstrap way. Oh, okay. It moved slightly over to the right. Let's go. We could use a table, I guess. A table, I think, would be the best option. Let's go look at Bootstrap tables. I didn't think too hard about the design here, but since we're using Bootstrap, we might as well make it look as pretty as possible. And I still can't find tables. Tables. Oh, it's pretty good. Looks pretty good. And we'll just copy paste that. Life short. Format document. Okay. Let's see how that looks. It's a little dark. It looks fine though. I like the font. We don't care about these other rows. Let's just copy the first row, I guess. Th scope equals row. I don't know if we need that one. I guess we could show the ID. I don't know, probably doesn't hurt. Let's go, let's actually pass that ID in from the view. So in addition to text, we'll have ID to do item ID. And then on the front end, the first row will be ID, and then text, and then date created, and then date completed. Okay. And then this will be, here we're gonna do a v4 equals to do in to dos. We're gonna iterate over this list of data. And then, oh yeah, here we have to switch to the delimiters. Normally we'd use double square brackets or double curlies for the to render the value inside the HTML, but we can't do that because it'll conflict with the Django template rendering. So delimiters, I like to use double square brackets. So what that enables you to do is here we'll say double square brackets to do dot ID. Oh, I also have to remember to copy the ID over ID data of I dot ID. Okay. That's fine. And this would be double square brackets to do dot text, double square brackets to do dot date created, and double square brackets to do dot date completed. I think that'll be good. I'm not sure how that will actually render those data objects. And there's the answer. It includes lots of information that we don't necessarily want. You know, one option would be, and this is the probably the lazier option, is just format the, just don't even care about doing JavaScript date objects. Format the date time however you want it on the back end when you actually send the data to the front end. So just do a strf time here. And then on the front end, we could just not bother parsing it. And then it would just always look good because we made it sure it looked good on the front end. I personally forget if there's an easy way to format a date with view. I think there is. I don't think we'll, oh, that one's pretty good. We don't want to use another library. Let's try this out. So this actually is a custom filter. That's not a good way to do filters though. Maybe there's a filters part of the app. Filters. Okay, filters is an object and then it's name, function, value. Okay, so we'll do it that way. Created, and we'll put it after created. So it's filters is an object. God, that's hideous. And where did we give it a name in this example? Oh, it's, so this would be format date function v. And then, oh no, it uses moment as well. How did I not notice that?
Moment's pretty out of the box. You could probably just add it to your CDNs.
Oh, I got it. I never played around with moment. I mean, it seems super powerful. I just always like to err on the side of using fewer libraries. Moment there. And okay. I guess I could do the if d. I don't know if that really matters. It's amazing how limited JavaScript is out of the box. What we could also do, if we didn't want to use moment, actually just thinking, we could say it's just a datetime object. So we could say v dot, I think it has dot get month. No, let's not do that because you have to actually look up. It gives you an integer and then you have to look up what the name of the month using an array. But yeah, you could use those date methods and get something that looks good. Okay, let's see how that does. Oh, I didn't add the filter. Format date. Okay. Value is not defined. Does it have to be called value? Oh, here. I was inconsistent. Let's just call it value everywhere, I guess. Okay. Let's see how that works. Good enough. Good enough. Maybe we'll just leave out the year because everybody wants this year to just be over with. Okay, this looks good. This looks good. So we successfully, let's go through the whole request response cycle just to review. So initially, the user types in localhost 8000 into their address bar, hits enter. So that does a GET request to the web server. First, it hits the project URLs.py. Project URLs.py sends the request to the apps URLs.py. The apps URLs.py sends this to the index view. The index view renders the template. And then this all gets rendered and sent to the browser. And then when the browser receives this, it will do another HTTP request, an AJAX call to localhost 8000/todos. So again, that hits the projects URLs.py, then goes to the apps URLs.py, goes to todos, and then the todos view gets some data out of the database, basically turns it into a dictionary, and then returns a JSON response, which takes that dictionary and turns it into actual JSON. And then the template, it receives that data from the response and just transforms it a little bit. Basically, the apps to-dos array starts out blank, and then we iterate over the data that we get from the server, and then create a new object containing all the fields that we got from the server, and then yeah, then that's part of our apps data. And then in the HTML portion, we iterate over that app data that we have, our to-do list, and generate a TR for each of those with the v-for, and then fill in the content for the TH, the T, and the TDs. Okay, we got 15 minutes left. We got 15 minutes left. And we got a couple more things we want to do. We want to at least be able to create a new to-do item, right? So we want to have a like a text input here, where the user can type a to-do item, and then a button that they can press, and they should see the new to-do item inside the table, right? Okay, so I'm gonna have to look back at Bootstrap here. Form control. Container row. I think I know what to do. I think we have to create another container. Div class equals container. Then a div class equals row. Div class equals call. Inputs type equals text. Doesn't Bootstrap have stuff about text inputs? Input group layout. I'm pretty sure they have a quick example we can just copy paste. This looks pretty good. Gutters. Yeah, we want something like that with labels. So let's actually take the first row out of this. There's only one row in here. We'll take the first row, and we just want those two, email and password. That looks good. Class equals row, pop that in there. Let's see what that looks like. Looks pretty good. Looks pretty good. But we don't really want that to say email, do we? So this is going to be to-do item. And instead of this second, this is actually going to be just a button. So I'm just going to make it a class equals btn, btn-primary. And I don't know, create to do. Something like that. Let's see what that looks like. It looks okay. It looks okay. This could be maybe better as a 10 and 2. Something like that. how do you make, I don't know, if someone was familiar with Bootstrap could weigh in, how do you make this thing less wide? It's too wide. How do you make a container smaller?
That's a good question.
I mean, I could just say hash app max width 500 pixels. I don't know what that would do though. Yeah, there you go. There you go. I just wonder if there's a more bootstrappy way to do it. I don't know. Okay. This still looks horrible. That button is an abomination. So maybe let's give it a little bit more breathing room. Make this 9 and 3. Again, there's 12 columns, so we're just dividing it into the 12 individual segments. This one's taking 9 columns, that one's taking 3. That looks better, but you know, the best way I found to solve this problem where the button's not aligned with the text input, right? These are the tricks only the masters know. Take this label, right, and just put it right there, and then just leave the text. Okay, and you have to put, if you have no text in it, it doesn't really take up any space on the page. So we're gonna have to put an NBSP, non-breaking space. And that's going to just take up a little bit of, damn it. My secret tricks. They failed me. How about one of these? No, that's okay. Whatever gets the job done. That's what I say. So I just put a line break there. I could have turned this into a block element. Maybe instead of a, make it a div or something. I don't know. It's fine. It looks good. Let's put a little, let's get a little designy. You know, you're creating something, you want to make it look good. Putting in all the time. Just put a couple HRs around there. That looks bad. I don't like this one. And this is really how the masters do it. Nobody tell Sherry. Nobody tell anybody I'm doing this. Just between you and me. Okay, so I think that looks pretty good. I think that looks pretty good. So let's set up some actual functionality with this. So we want to be able to type in here, hit the create to do. We send the data to the backend, save it to the database, and then refresh this so we can see our newly added to do item. So let's start by adding some additional data to the data portion of our app. We'll call it input underscore to do. Make it a blank string initially. And then we'll set that as the v model of our input field. Don't need an ID there. v-model equals input to do. Don't need this type equals email either. I can just be type equals text. That doesn't need a for. Okay. That looks good. Oh, this should have a for. ID equals, we'll just call it input to do. Input to do. Okay. Input to do, input to do, input to do. And then we're gonna have to add a method to our button. So this is gonna have a v-on click equals save to do, something like that. Save to do in camel case. Okay, so that's going to call one of our app methods, save to do function. Let's just make sure that that button works. A bunch of exclamation points. Run that, hit the button, see the exclamation points. Cool. So our method's working. So what we're going to do now is we're going to basically do a post request via Axios to another view on the back end. And the body of the post request will contain JSON, including the actual input to do item, which the user typed into the input field, right? So, okay, so we got to go to views, F, save to do, request. For now, let's just do print request body. The JSON is going to come through as the body of the request and return HTTP response. Okay, we'll just say okay back. We do have to import HTTP response though. Okay, and then we got to set up our route to get there. Path, save to do, views.save to do, what's it, save underscore to do? Save underscore to do. Name is equal to, I don't know, save underscore to do. Okay. You know, the user's not going to see it. We'll just keep it consistent everywhere. So the path will be save underscore to do as well. Okay, so we've got a route, we've got a view. We can test it out if we want to. We can just go to, don't need any of this stuff anymore. You can just go to localhost 8000/save underscore to do, and we should see an okay response. Okay, the view is working. Now is one of the trickier parts of this. So now we're going to set up the Axios call to do a post request from the front end to the back end containing the text that the user entered into that input field. So Axios URL, we're going to use the reverse URL lookup again. I'm just going to copy paste it because I'm feeling lazy. But this is going to be save underscore to do. And then the method is actually going to be post, and the data is the data that's going to be turned into JSON. It's just going to have a single field input to do. We'll call it to do text. To do text, and the value is going to be this dot input to do. Okay, so many little pieces. So basically, remember, input to do is the variable that's bound as the v model of the input field. So whatever the user types in there will be the value of input to do. And when the user hits the button, we just send an Axios call to our save to do view and put the value of that variable inside the data portion that we're sending. So this whole object is going to get turned into JSON. We'll be able to click the button, look at the terminal output that's running, the output of the terminal that's running the Django process, and see the value that we typed. Okay, hope that made sense. Okay, I don't think there's anything else to that. There's that then, but we don't really care about the response. Console.log response.data. It's just going to say okay. Okay, so we'll go to our homepage, type in ABC123 llama, hit create to do. No errors in the console. Deprecation warning, value provided is not recognizable RFC 2822 or ISO format. Okay, well, if we can scrape by, maybe we'll look at some date formatting stuff, but let's look at the, doesn't look like that actually sent. Oh, yeah, so we got a, looks like we got a get request at save to do, which we didn't want to send a get request. We wanted to send a post request, so something went wrong. Method is post. Oh, that was because I went to it directly before. Sorry, that was when I went directly to it before. Something's, our Axios calls isn't getting off the ground. Something's going wrong. We don't see any errors in the console, interestingly enough. Okay, there we get an error. Oh, 4.3 forbidden. Anybody know what went wrong? Okay. We forgot the CSRF token. So this is another chance to use that our template rendering, because you can get the CSRF token out of the out of a cookie. It's actually stored in a cookie, but we don't want that. Then we have to install like a whole nother library just to deal with cookies. Headers, God help me, XCSRF token. And then the value is going to be double curly CSRF token. I think that's how it goes. So let's actually just refresh view page source and make sure that that rendered correctly. Yeah, XCSRF token, there's the token. You can see our reverse URL lookup rendered correctly as well. Okay, let's try that post request once again and see if we can get some text on the back end. Hello, ABC123 llama. Create to do, okay response on the front end. The back end, yep. Binary string containing JSON, to do text, hello, ABC123 llama. Okay, so that means that our backend is properly receiving the data we sent it from the front end. So next, all we have to do is create an instance of our, we have to parse this thing. We have to turn it into a Python dictionary from JSON. And then we can create an instance of our to-do item model, save that model to the database, and then respond to the front end. And then we get the updated data. So what do we got? So let's get the to-do text. To-do text is equal to, or we'll say data is equal to JSON.loads request.body. We're gonna have to import JSON. I put that, I don't know where to put it there. And then again, that data is just this dictionary here. So it's just got to-do text in it. So we can just say to-do text is equal to data of to-do underscore text. To-do underscore item is equal to-do item. And we have to pass quargs. Text is equal to to-do text. Date created is equal to, we have to import from Django.utils, import time zone. We want to get the current date time, but we want it to be time zone aware. So time zone.now, the current date time, and date, here it's date created. And then date completed is just gonna be none because it hasn't been completed yet. So created a to-do item, let's save it. To-do item.save, database. Let's try it out. Let's try it out. Localhost 8000. What's something we can do? Can drink some tea. That's on my to-do list. So I hit create to do. We got an okay response from the server. If we log into the admin panel, we should see our drink some tea. Date created, cool. Date complete is none. But notice the front end's not updating. And that's because this is a single page application, right? If I click it a dozen times, it does each of those as a request. And if we look, if we look in the admin panel, we'll see the to-do item. We created a bunch of drinks and teas, right? So because this is a single page application, the page isn't going to update itself. So we have to manually do that. If we refresh, we'll see the updated data because it'll do a fresh request response cycle. But we'll just have to do that manually. So I'm actually going to take this little Axios call, and I'm going to put it into a method. So all of this, I'm going to put this in get to's function. Boom. That looks good. And And then from my created lifecycle hook, I'm just going to say this dot get to dos. And from my save to do, I'm going to say this dot get to dos. Again, this dot get to dos, it's a method. All it does is send the request to the server and just take the data that the server responds with and assigns it to the app's data. And then the app's data is what builds up the HTML. Okay, we should be able to do a full request response cycle with adding some data. So go for a walk. Let's see it, moment of truth. Oh, and it just appears there at the bottom. Notice the index jumped to 11 because I added all that junk data and then deleted it. Drink some water. Cool. So you can sort of see like, so right, we can get data from the backend by sending a GET request and having a view that takes data out of the database and turns it into a JSON response. And then the view app on the front end can use that data to build up a bunch of HTML. But then we can also send data from the front end to the back end. You know, we have this a V model on an input field. We have a click event on the button. So when the user clicks the button, we get the value of that input fields. We send a post request to another view, and then that view saves the data to the database and responds with OK. And then when the front end receives that that response, it sends another request response cycle to get the newly updated data from the back end. So yeah, that's it. That's it. That's I was hoping that, you know, with the date completed to have like a complete button and delete button, but you know, so much to talk about, such little time.